Today we're going to be showing you 5 spots connected to the Second World War sites that are kind of hidden in the plain sight. We're going to be walking you through those events and telling you what exactly happened there. Our first stop might be surprising because it is one of the most recognizable historical sites in the city. Prague's Old Town Hall thrives at the square's center. Its famous astronomical clock, a 15th century marvel, charms visitors oblivious to the building's wartime ruin. Almost no trace remains of the destruction that nearly claimed it all. As Czech resistance fighters seized the Old Town Hall on May 5, 1945, it became a symbol of defiance amid the Prague uprising. But on May 8, as the Soviet forces closed in, desperate German tanks and shells turned the building into an inferno hours before their final surrender. The neo-Gothic wing collapsed in flames, leaving scars that still shape Old Town Square today. It was never rebuilt, and now you can find a little tree alley right beside the Old Town Hall where it used to stand. And our next stop is Emmaus Monastery that was founded by Charles IV, the greatest king in the Czech history, that also built Charles Bridge, for example. But if he was brought back to life nowadays and asked to take a look at this monastery, he would probably not recognize it because it looks very different to how it used to. Take a look at this photo. The towers of the monastery look different. They're supposed to symbolize the angel wings, and they are modern. Why did they rebuild it? Well, if you're an OG viewer of this channel, you already know, but if you're new here, it is because of the Valentine's Day bombing. On Valentine's Day 1945, American B-17 bombers veered off course in thick fog, mistaking Prague's Vltava for Dresden's Elbe. In just 9 devastating minutes, 152 tons of bombs ravaged homes in Vinohrady and beyond, 701 civilian lives lost, with no military targets hit. 4 days later, on February 18th, Prague mourned at St. Ludmila's Church, thousands bidding farewell to the lost souls. One of the things that was also damaged by the blast are the beautiful frescoes that come from 14th century. They were repaired in the 50s, but the work was criticized. Nevertheless, you can still see them in the ambit of the monastery today. There are also the info panels that can guide you through what you are actually looking at. Right around the corner from Emmaus, you can find the Faust house, the fabled place where Mephistopheles visited Dr. Faust and made a deal to him that ultimately took his soul. Interestingly, the house was also damaged during Valentine's Day bombing, and the bomb fell through the roof of the house just as Devil did in the story and did not explode, believe it or not. The house was repaired anyway, and nowadays you cannot really tell that it was bombed, but there is one thing you can find in the passage of the house that reminds us of that time, and that's a burned beam. Those beams were found in 2025, so it's a new relic, you could say, and they belong to the nearby hospital that was also bombed, and one of them now is displayed here. We are now at Palatsky Bridge, another spot that was hit during the bombing. What is missing from the bridge nowadays are 4 large statues that used to be placed on the opposite sides of the bridge, symbolizing the legendary Czech folklore figures. During the bombing, they were damaged and moved to Vyšehrad, where you can find them nowadays. And now let's talk about the most unexpected location connected to Valentine's Day bombing, and that's the dancing house, or more specifically, a house that used to stand here instead of it. As you can see on this photo, it was an ordinary apartment building that was completely destroyed during the bombing, and for about 40 years it was just an empty lot until 1996, when architects Franco Gehry and Vladimir Lunic rebuilt it in one of the most famous modern buildings in Prague. Today it is a very popular spot. There's a fancy restaurant, there's a glass bar which is quite overpriced, and also a lot of people come here to take Instagram photos, which is why the lawn in front of the dancing house was pretty much stomped into dust. This is what happens when you become popular. So as you can see, guys, it's pretty much a desert, like in the movie Dune here. There's no grass anymore, but even with that, some of you still flooded our comment section in the video where I was standing not on a sidewalk the last time, that I was somehow destroying the grass when there was literally nothing to destroy anymore. Everything has been destroyed. I think they should just replan and pave the whole thing, because I don't think the popularity of the dancing house for taking photos specifically in front of it is gonna go down anytime soon. I think it's gonna be even worse. So we should just bend and pave it all, I think. Alright guys, and now let me show you something cool which is right next to the dancing house over there. Alright, we are going to be talking about this house over here called House at 2000s. Everyone always talks about the dancing house, but misses this one, and it is also very, very important. As you can see by this plaque, this is where Václav Havel used to live. Václav Havel being the first president of Czech Republic and the last president of Czechoslovakia. And this is actually his family house, because this is the house that his grandfather built and where he grew up. Here you can see some of the old photos of Václav and his younger brother posing at the balcony with a view of the Prague Castle. So this is really that house. So this is where the Havel family lived pretty much continuously since the beginning of 20th century, with a few interruptions. And this is where they also lived during Second World War. Well, fortunately, during the Valentine's Day bombing, they were not in Prague. For the majority of the Second World War, they lived in their estate in the countryside, quite far away from here. But their apartment was still here. So the uncle of Václav Havel was calling his dad and telling him that the apartment building right next to their house was bombed and they needed to visit it later and see if there was any damage done. But as you can see, the house is still here, and you can check it out if you are in the area. Now we will follow the road up from the dancing house and arrive at a small church of Saint Cyril and Methodius, the two messengers that brought Christianity to Czech pagans in the year 863. This is now an Orthodox church, for sure worth visiting, but what we're going to be talking right now is actually the crypt of the church, because it was a place where one of the most dramatic moments in Czech history occurred. The crypt of the church was used as a hideout for 7 paratroopers that were dropped to the Protectorate of Bohemia and Moravia to participate in multiple top-secret missions. 2 of those paratroopers were sent here to assassinate Reinhard Heydrich, also known as the Butcher of Prague. We actually filmed a whole video about this assassination. You can check it out. The church was surrounded by around 600 SS, and the shootout lasted 6 hours. In the end, all of the paratroopers tragically died. You can still see the traces of this tragic event on the facade of the church. So the first thing you notice here is the date 1942 in the cobblestones, and then if you look up, you can see the bullet holes in the facade, which is quite unusual for Prague, because usually these things were just repaired, but here they were left on purpose, because this is the bullet holes around the small window to the crypt where the paratroopers were hiding, and you can also see the memorial plaque with their names above the window. You can also see the bullet holes inside of the church, as well as the hole that paratroopers tried to dig, just as they show in the movie Anthropoid. If you haven't seen that movie, do check it out as well. The crypt of the church is possible to visit for free, and it is one of the most important military memorials in the Czech Republic. But please be respectful. They do have lines at times, because they only allow a certain number of people in to preserve the respectful atmosphere and silence at the memorial. So please be aware of that. We do visit this memorial on our Second World War and Communism tour, which is a step-by-step story of Czechoslovakia in 20th century, and we run this tour almost every single day. If you would like to join one of my colleagues at 100 Spires City Tours, I will leave a QR code here so you can sign up when you are coming to Prague. Thank you again for watching, and we will see you in our next video. Bye!